Today when I was preparing this sermon yesterday and the week before, I didn't know how I will title it. And at first I thought I should title it Healing and Restoration. And again in the morning, I changed my mind and I thought I should call it Hope Beyond Despair. But hearing Evelyn, as she took us through the Holy Communion, I've also again changed my mind. I've decided to go back to healing and restoration. And they say it's only a fool who does not change his mind. So I believe it is wise enough to change it to that, and I pray that it will speak to us.
Amen.
The reason why I thought I should call it healing and restoration is because of the verse the chapter or the verses we are going to share, and it's about the woman with the issue of blood. It is one of those moments, or it's one of those miracles that are often, I could describe them as a miracle in passing. It's rarely, people talk about it in passing. And it also happened to be a miracle that happened in passing. Because when it happened, Jesus was on his way to go to Jairus' house to cure the daughter who had incidentally passed on. So it is a miracle that was happening in passing. But to me, I think it is one of the greatest miracles and one of the greatest stories about faith. And it's something I thought we should share. So whenever we talk about sickness, or whenever we talk about healing, there has to be a state of mind and body that is not okay. We can only talk about sickness when your body is not properly functioning. And your body is the physical body, it's the soul, it's the spirit, it is your mind, what you are thinking. And whenever we talk of the physical illness, we all can relate to it. All of us have been ill at some point in our lives, and we immediately know it when we are not okay. We usually say, sijiski vizuri, I'm not feeling well. There's something that is not working properly in my body. For the emotional one, at times we may not realize it immediately. But when you are emotionally not okay, at times you tend to have some anxiety. Some people say nimeboeka. Some people say I feel stressed. Some people say I don't feel like talking to anybody. I just want to be alone. You are not at peace. There's a lot of anxiety in your body. Then there's the spiritual. And at times the spiritual, we may not realize it. But at times, when there's that spiritual illness, in most cases people say, akona mapepo, that's the only spiritual illness we easily recognize. And you see, it's even in the Bible. Saul, when he was not at peace because some evil spirit had descended on him, he was moody, he was angry. He was, I could say, he even had a state of mind of killing, because he threw a spear twice or thrice at David. He was not at peace. He was ill. The body was sick. And in most cases, this we may not, I don't know if we'll agree with it, but it's also an extension. Financial sickness. And there are people who become sick when they are broke.
Oh, yes.
Harrison, we can relate. No, Harrison is my brother. We share a lot. We have the same illnesses. Me, when I'm broke, you'll know. My people, they'll know when I'm broke. I'm usually down. You feel sasa, hata unaogopa kuulizwa swali, because you might not be able to give money. Unaambiwa sasa, unaona utakula nini? You just say anything that is in the house. Because you might say chapati wambie sulete pesa ya unga, you don't have it. So the illness is always there, at all those fronts. And surprisingly, one illness affects the other. if you are physically ill, it tends to affect you emotionally. You start feeling you might be a burden to some people. Some of us become needy. We want attention. You know, anything I say here should not be used against me. So, I'll give you a story. Some time back, I was not okay. I was ill. I had a fever. And me, I'm really sick. And when I'm sick, me mupona naturally. I really go to hospital.
That's divine health.
Divine health, yeah. I just heal with time. And there's this time, I think we were in Limuru, and I was ill. I had a very bad fever, Gioni. But it so happened that the time I became ill is the time my wife had said that she'll be coming for Kesha ya praise and worship. I think we were preparing for a worship experience or something. Yeah, and you see I was physically ill in the evening. Huh? And when she told me that she's going to Kesha, emotionally, I became mad. Kasema, how do you leave your husband ill in the house to say you're going for a Kesha? Na nikikufa hiyo siku atasema Kesha kienda wapi? As if a fever would kill me. And I was mad. One illness affected the other.
Yes.
So, when you are ill, don't just look at the physical. It affects so many things. It affects your whole being, both physical and spiritual.
Yes.
And that is what this lady had.
Yes.
So let us just go through the verses so that we can go step by step through this miracle of the healing of the woman with the issue of blood. Let us look at Mark chapter 5, verse 25. Oh, I can read from here. And it says, and a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years. This woman had the issue of blood for 12 years. And had suffered many things of many physicians. She had gone to so many physicians for treatment. And I'm thinking, when they say physicians, they just don't mean the doctors of those days. Because at times when we are ill, we try everything to the extent of hata kujaribu ile ingine, si ndio? Have you had instances where people say, hii yako tumejaribu madawa imeshindikana, jaribu mambo mengine ya nyumbani. I'm assuming she had tried all those things. Both physicians and what they would call spiritual healers. And had spent all she had and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. Just go back. So she had spent all her money on physicians, but she had not become any better. In any case, they said she had grown worse. Next, 27. When she heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched his garment. She heard that there's Jesus. And we'll see what she might have heard about Jesus. But they say she heard about Jesus. And when she heard about Jesus, she came behind Jesus and touched his garment. Came behind Jesus and touched his garment. Again, letter 28. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. Yes. That's the faith she had. That's what she believed. She had never seen Jesus. She had never seen Jesus perform those miracles. She had never even heard Jesus. But she had heard about Jesus and what Jesus had been doing. And in her mind, she said that if I only touch his cloth, I will be whole. Next, 29. And straight away, the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. Immediately she touched Jesus. the blood that was coming out of her body dried. And she felt that her body had been healed from that disease. 30. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the press and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Don't go to back hapo. When this lady touched Jesus, Jesus immediately felt virtue. Some verses talk of power flow out of him, and in some cases they say he felt weak. Some strength had come out of him, and he asked, "Who touched my clothes?" That is 30, 31. And his disciples said unto him, "Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and said thou, Who touched my cloth?" The disciples were shocked. There are so many people around you. Everybody is touching you. Yes. I want to believe this was a big crowd of over 1,000 people. Everyone's struggling to just see this Jesus. Touch this Jesus. Is he really a human being? Hata mtu aseme, by the leo I was able to touch Jesus. Unakumbuka the time we had the World Cup in Kenya, and everybody wanted to take a photograph with that World Cup, including our head of state. And we just wanted to touch and go and say, "Leo nilishika kikombe ya World Cup." Yeah. I'm assuming some people are there just to say, "I also touched Jesus." And it was a big crowd. But Jesus felt the touch of one woman only and said, "Who touched me?" The others had equally touched Jesus, but Jesus felt just that one touch. What was so different of this touch from all the other touches that Jesus had experienced? And he asked, "Who touched me?" 32. And he looked around about to see her that had done these things. So Jesus looked around to identify that person who had actually touched him. And 33. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. 34. And he said unto her, "Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague." Praise God. Amen. That is the healing that was experienced through faith. In fact, to me, if I was to title this sermon again, I would call it The Touch of Faith. I would title it The Touch of Faith. Because let us look at this woman. She had an issue of blood. An issue of blood means that blood had been oozing from her body for 12 years. Some of us, when blood tukijikata and blood oozes for 2 minutes, will be dying, because he damn is mommy. But we are talking about a lady whose blood was oozing for 12 years. And this issue of blood was not just physical. She was physically unwell. She was physically sick. I want to think, and it must be the case, she was equally emotionally sick. You've been sick for 12 years. Blood oozing. See headache, blood oozing from your body for 12 years. Emotionally, you must think, I don't deserve to be among people. Emotionally, you must think, I'm going to die the next day. She must have been broken. She must have been depressed. And she must have been in turmoil. Emotionally. Financially, she was poor. The Bible records. She had spent all her money and she was not getting better. She grew worse. And I'm thinking, the fact that she was sick, she could not even go out there to work. So she must have spent all her savings. Her relatives must have spent all their savings, and she had nothing else to go to. She was financially poor. I want to think that even in her life, she felt that she was already dead. Because if you've been ill for 12 years, it's just dead. Because you spent your money, people have given up on you, and there's nothing else to do. But there's a worst bit about this entire issue of blood. According to the law, she was unclean. According to the law, she was unclean. So spiritually, at that time, she was considered a curse, an outcast. If you look at Leviticus, which I think we can go through, Leviticus 15, 25, let's start from 25. Leviticus 15, 25. It says, and now this is what the law says. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it ran beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanliness shall be as the days of her separation. This essentially means that any issue of blood outside the ordinary circumstances that all of us understand meant that that period that this lady had that issue of blood, she was unclean. 26. Every bed whereon she lieth, all the days of her issue shall be unto her, shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. This meant that anywhere she sat, anything she touched was unclean. 27. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his bodies and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Until the evening, I think. That means evening. So it meant that anybody who was associated with this woman was unclean. And the scripture even says that such a person was supposed to be separated from the children of Israel, lest those children of Israel get unclean and come and make the tabernacle unclean as well. So she was carrying the stigma of an entire tribe, an entire nation. She was an outcast. She was not supposed to be with anybody. This meant that even food, if you were to take food to her, you'd probably just put it at the entrance and say, tumeleta chakula, and you go away. And whatever utensils she had used, you will not retrieve them. Because if you touch those utensils, you become unclean. This was a woman in isolation, not just the issue of flowing of blood. Spiritually, she had been dismissed. Huyu hapana, this is not one of us. You know, I have a friend, he was telling me a story, and I don't want to mention the tribe because I'll be accused of profiling tribes. But he was telling me, this is an actual story, that in their community, when people are growing up, when people get old, those wazes were 60, 70, 80, some 90. At some point, not all of them, but some old men, he used the word wanazeeka vibaya. They start cursing people. Nilete hii. If you don't bring, do you want me to curse you? Nilete hii. They become petty, and you see, curses used to be taken seriously. So when they realize that Umze is among the wazes that wanazeeka vibaya, they will try and look around. and see kama kuna wazee age mates wake. And if they realize that he's the only one around there, watakuja one day to him wamwambie, sasa mzee, tumeangalia and you seem to be the only old man your age around here. All the others have gone. So what are you doing here? You should be joining your your age mates, your peers. And what they would do, they would come on a special, on a given day, sing to this old mzee as they escort him out of the community. Yeah. And he'll go and live in isolation, probably in a cave somewhere, alone. And they would tie a string to his leg. So they would come, place some food at the entrance, pull the string, and say, chakula iko hapa, and they go away. Such that they don't even have to see him. So they'll continue doing that until one day, wakileta chakula ya jana wale bado iko hapo, they pull the nini, they realize, this man might be gone. So they stop bringing food. And they get rid of that person from that community. This is the stigma this woman with the issue of blood had. Nobody would come close to her. But she heard about Jesus. She heard about Jesus, and I'm sure what she heard was that Jesus was the healer. She had healed other people. She had healed the paralyzed people. People who were possessed with demons. And in her heart of hearts, she knew, this Jesus, if I was to only encounter him, I would be healed. And I would not even need to go and request or fall at his feet and say, Jesus, heal me. Her, she just wanted to touch the hem of Jesus' cloth. And she knew she would be healed. There are so many times that in our lives, we are in a state of despair to the extent that we feel nothing else will work. But I want to encourage us like this woman with the issue of blood. I have described the situation she was in, but she chose to ignore that state of affairs for her. She was not even supposed to mingle with the people. If she was pressing through the crowd, I'm imagining mtu mwingine angesema, I cannot even go out there. Leave alone getting to Jesus. I cannot even dare go out there. I'm cursed. I'm not supposed to mingle with people. People will see me and they'll say, that is the woman with the issue of blood. What is she doing here? And I don't know. But probably, and I stand to be corrected, had she dared go out, maybe in her mind, I'm thinking she would have even thought that if I was to go out there, people will even stone me. Because I'm a curse. I'm not supposed to go out there, touch other people, and turn the whole nation into a curse. This woman had never witnessed the miracles of Jesus. She had only heard about them. She had never witnessed them. She only had heard about them. But she had faith. She had faith that she would be healed. That can only be beyond human understanding. She had faith that even in my circumstances, I'll be healed. And she made that step. She made that first step of saying, I'm casting aside what other people say about me. I'm casting aside the situation that I am in. And I am stepping out there to go and get my healing. She did not sit in the house and say, like that song that Pasia has come to say he does not like it so much. Usinipite Mwokozi. She would have had that option of sitting in house and say, after all, I am not supposed to be out there in the society. She would sit there and sing her lamentation. Jesus, as you pass by, do not pass me by. Ukienda kwa wengine usinipite. And she could have easily done that. Why? Jesus was on his way to Jairus' home. Si ati alikuwa amekaa hapo amengoja watu. Jesus was on his way to Jairus' home. And she would have said, after all, Jesus is busy. He's going to Jairus' home. Mimi, my healing is not today. Hiyo imenipita hivyo. But she did not. And she had this encounter with Jesus. She got out of her seclusion. She got out of her bondage. She got out of her stigma and made a conscious decision to get to where Jesus was. Amen. This is a step all of us must be able to take. That at any given time, we must find it in ourselves to step out with faith and reach out to Jesus. In whatever circumstances we are in. And that is the hope beyond despair I want to talk about. That you must hope you must hope in Jesus even when there's no reason to hope. There are those circumstances unasema hakuna njia ingine. But you must have that hope that goes beyond despair. Yes. And you can imagine this woman, nobody interceded for her. Have you realized that in some of those healings, people would bring people for healing? Yes. You remember the 4 people who even went to the extent of breaking into a house and lowering somebody? Yes. Those people interceded for that paralyzed man. The centurion servant, the centurion soldier actually interceded on behalf of the servant. Yes. Jairus interceded on behalf of the daughter. Yes. Yes. This lady had nobody to intercede for her. But she took it upon herself to intercede for herself.
Yes.
Yes. Am I talking to somebody?
Yes.
She refused to say that there's nobody to help me.
Yes.
She stood up and said, mimi mwenyewe nitajipeleka mbele za Bwana. Mimi mwenyewe nitajipeleka mbele za Bwana. And she walked out. We should never feel that we are too little or too undeserving before the Lord. You can walk up to the Lord anytime and seek for anything from the Lord. Even if people will intercede for you. But when you feel that nobody is interceding for you, do not sit back and feel pity for yourself. Intercede for yourself. Say, Jesus, I've come and I'm in need of 1, 2, 3. Please walk with me. Please help me out. See me out of this situation. And you'll find that healing. Because this lady, the moment she pressed through the crowd, and mark you, she did not look at Jesus in the face. She did not come and fall at the feet of Jesus. No, no, no. I'm sure she was just in the crowd and wondering, huyo Yesu ndio mgani? And when she realized that that body that everybody is touching, that must be the Jesus, she came from behind and touched the garment of Jesus. And there was her healing. She touched Jesus with faith that she would be healed. And something interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that is the only part in the verse in the Bible where we are told that Jesus healed somebody and Jesus himself felt weak. He felt the virtue, the power had left him.
I think because under healing, it's intentional.
Yes.
He's aware he's going to heal you.
He's aware he's coming to heal you. You've asked for that healness.
Yes.
But this lady, her faith is what was healing her. And we'll come to that. And you see, after the healing, this lady, Jesus said, somebody has touched me. And when Jesus said, somebody has touched me, the disciples told him, but everybody, so many people are touching you. Why do you say that somebody has touched you? But Jesus knew his encounter with this woman. Jesus knew that this woman had touched him. And not only did she get the physical healing, she got the spiritual healing as well.
Yes.
Because the reason why I'm saying this, when Jesus healed the paralyzed man, and I think we'll read it at some point, when he healed the man with paralysis, he told that man after the healing, go to the temple, go to the temple and ask the Pharisees for you to make an offering. The way the offering was done according to the law. But this led, you see, after the healing, the Bible records that when you have the issue of blood, after that issue of blood subsides or stops, you are supposed to go back to the temple and give, I think it was 2 pigeons, one as offering of sin and another one as a burnt offering. Jesus never told this woman to go do that. But he told the man he had cured of paralysis to go to the temple and give that offering. This woman received not only physical, but also the spiritual healing. The stigma that was around her, Jesus had to declare, who touched me? And Jesus declared to the people that woman, your faith, sorry, not woman, daughter. Your faith has healed you.
Yes. Amen.
So that even socially, she was healed. The people knew Jesus had healed this woman with the issue of blood. And perhaps there are so many lessons as Christians we can draw from this miracle. They may not be exhaustive, but I'll just quickly run through a number of them. And one of them is we should stop looking for worldly solutions, human understanding, because they fail. And where they fail, Jesus succeeds.
Amen.
Whichever situation you might be in, when everything fails, just know Jesus cannot fail.
Yes.
This woman had been ill for 12 years. They had tried everything. And it was even said or known, if she was to touch anything, that thing would become unclean.
Yes.
This woman touched Jesus. Jesus did not become unclean.
Amen.
Instead, the woman became clean.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen?
Yes.
So, whichever circumstances you are in, I'm here to encourage you.
Yes.
Jesus will never fail.
Amen. Amen.
Jesus will never fail. And secondly, we should not live in condemnation of men. Don't let men condemn you.
Yes.
That you are beyond repair. That you cannot be healed. That kufikia hapa, there's nothing that can be done for you.
Yes.
And you see, as Christians, we live under a lot of social law and social expectations.
Yes. Preach.
Yes.
Amen?
Yes.
Niende huko?
Yes.
Niongeze volume? There are those social expectations
Yes.
that people expect of you, yet as a Christian, you should not stoop down to them.
Yes.
Allow me to go there.
Yes.
Because if I don't go there, I'll be, there's a sermon in rubber stamping what other people believe.
Yes.
Ladies, you know there's that one auntie. You know that one auntie?
Yes.
That each time you go to a gathering, a social gathering at home, they are always telling you, na ulikuja peke yako. Are we there?
Yes.
Na nakwambia, next time, please come with somebody. Miaka yako imeenda sana. Social expectations.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen?
Yes.
The problem not you. The problem is that social expectation.
Yes.
It's that social expectation. Let us live out of that social expectation, because that is what condemns us. Puts us under pressure that we want to live in a state of pleasing others, or becoming part of the society. Yeah.
Yes.
What Evelyn was preaching. Yeah. Fitting in. You struggle to fit in. You are told that hii kazi usipotoa pesa utaipata. That is the social expectation. Ama, for you, since you are here, you must help yourself. If you don't steal, it means you are an idiot. You are not helping yourself. You are not wise. Let us live beyond that social expectation. This woman had been condemned. She was unclean. She was not to get any healing. But she believed that she would get the healing from Jesus Christ. And thirdly, we should never consider ourselves any less deserving of God's mercy, grace, and promise.
Yes.
This woman was never discouraged by the fact that Jesus was going to Jairus' home. I want to believe somebody would have said, this is not my time. I am not deserving. After all, Jairus was a leader of the synagogue. In fact, they say he was a ruler of the synagogue. I want to believe during this time he would be like, not a name, but a title. Maybe a pope or something. One of those people. People who the society would say they should be given priority. This lady did not despair. She did not consider herself any less or any less deserving of God's mercy and grace. She stepped forth and received her healing. Today, all of us here, I'm not saying we are ill, but we must have a deficiency in one way or another. That deficiency that you have, I want you to step forth today and say, I am deserving of God's grace and mercy, and I'm going to get that healing from Jesus Christ. Amen?
Yes.
Amen. And we should also approach the throne of mercy with faith and humility. We should approach the throne of mercy with faith and humility. At times as Christians, we tend to approach the throne of mercy with complaints and demands. God, I have served you. I want you to come through for me. I have served you. I have done this to you. I want you to heal me. I have done this to you. I have done this for you. I want you to heal me. I want you to provide this, because if I get this, I will use it to serve you. You're giving a condition. You're not giving. You see, there's a way you can say, God, if you give me this, I will. As in, you are imploring upon God to give you something. But here, you are setting conditions. After all, if you give me, it will be for your benefit. So give me. That is not what this woman did. She did not throw herself at Jesus' feet and wail and say, you've seen my pain, and it said that you've come to save us, you've come to heal us. Heal me. That's not the approach she took. She went down, and we are told she touched the hem. The hem ni nini? Pasi yako ilikuwa hem. Hem has the implication of a robe, yes, or a dress. Yes. So it is here. This lady went down to touch the hem of Jesus' feet, the garment, and she was healed. My brothers and sisters, if you are looking for humility, if you are looking for healing, if you are looking for peace, get down. And Jesus will lift you up.
Oh, yes.
He will put you on a pedestal and tell everybody, I have healed this man. I have healed this woman. Because you've come to him with faith and humility. And he's heard you and he's given you restoration. And we must make a conscious decision to follow Jesus regardless of our circumstances. Regardless, even when you have reason to think that now I should give up. Today I should not think about Jesus. Today I should not pick that Bible. Today nimekasirishwa kazi sana, I am justified not to even think about God. I'm not even going to pray. When you get to that position, remember this woman. If this woman could get out of her house, a cell that every circumstances had imprisoned her in, and she went out there to receive her healing, you don't have any reason to give up on Jesus Christ.
Amen.
She had every reason not to go. And it would be justified. Hata tungesema, yenyewe hiyo yako, tunaelewa. But she stepped beyond that. So we must always make a conscious decision to follow Christ regardless of our circumstances.
Yes.
And it begins with coming to church.
Yes.
Even when you're feeling discouraged, even when things are so messy, just turn up to church. Just turn up for church.
Yes.
Just turn up. It is good enough, just turn up. Somebody will preach something you can relate to. Somebody will sing a song you can relate to. Somebody will make a confession you can relate to. And in the process, you'll start healing with that communion. Evelyn talked about it when she was talking about the Holy Communion. You can have your communion in the house, but it is, I don't want to say more fulfilling, but it is even better if you have it with brothers. Don't despair alone in the house. Turn up, despair with us in church, and we'll help each other out. And you'll get that healing.
Yes.
I'm rushing because of time. But whenever we approach the throne of mercy, let us approach with faith. It is what makes the difference. It does not matter how many thousand times we will wail for help from God. If it does not have faith, then we are laboring in vain. So many people touch Jesus Christ. So many. But they were just touching him for the sake of touching him. This one lady touched Jesus with faith. And it's what made a whole lot of difference. It is what made the difference. So, in our daily lives, let us aspire to touch Jesus with faith, trust in his healing, and it will come to us. It is, I used to hear, and I think when I read through this verse, it's what came to me. We usually say, when Jesus stands up, when Jesus stands up, he shows off. I think this is a perfect example. When Jesus stands up, he shows off. Jesus had healed other people. And whenever those healings occurred, he would tell them, do not talk about these things to anybody. So many occasions, including Jairus. When he raised Jairus' daughter from the dead, alisema, don't mention these things. When he healed the paralyzed man, alisema, don't mention these things. When he healed the blind, aliwaambia, don't say these things. But for this one healing, he said, who touched me? He wanted everybody to know there's a woman who had received healing. And I'll come to that because I want that to be my finishing. Just park it somewhere. But as I conclude, I want to say, let us stand in the promise of healing and restoration with faith. We are already healed. It is a promise. It is a promise that we must stand in, because it's only a matter of time. For this woman, it took 12 years. But when she stood in that promise, she was healed. It is already done. It's just a matter of time. Don't let the current circumstances make you think otherwise. It might be bad now, but that promise is there, that we shall be healed. You see, when you look at this woman, I would want to think she had heard about Isaiah 53:5. I don't know. I don't know whether she had or she had not had. I don't know. I don't know. That by his stripes we are healed. That he's taking away infirmities. I think we can project it as we go through this. Isaiah 53:5. I don't know whether she had heard or not heard about the prophecy by Isaiah. I don't know. But he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement, that word of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. When I was reflecting on this thing, that verse and this healing, at some point nilishtuka mpaka Marifa akasema nini? Nikasema okay, something has come to me. Akaniambia share. Nikasema no, it's my preaching tomorrow. Akaniambia why don't you want to share? Nikasema staki upate ito player. I want everybody to get it. This is the conviction I have. And I think that conviction has been reinforced by Evelyn discussing and talking about divine exchange. I don't know whether this woman had heard about this. I don't know. I don't know. And even at the time, Jesus had not had the Last Supper, where he told his disciples that this is my body, take it in remembrance of me. This blood is the new covenant with you. It had not even happened. Jesus had not even been crucified. But this lady believed that that body of Christ is what would heal her. Sijui kama kuna mtu ameona hapo. It had not happened. I don't know if she had heard about this, but the crucifixion had not occurred. The Last Supper had not happened. But she knew this body of Christ that people ahead of, that people would later on be communing in remembrance of, is what was going to heal her. Her faith was so strong that it moved her time. Sijui kama mmepata hiyo. Her faith was so strong that even before Jesus had been crucified, even before he had said that it is all done, even before he said that this is the new covenant, this lady experienced the new covenant from the old covenant.
Wow.
Yes.
And that is why Jesus felt weak.
Yes.
He felt the power get out of him.
Yes.
It is what Evelyn called divine exchange. At that point, this lady, the old curse of the old covenant,
Yes.
left her. And Jesus took it up.
Yes.
And the new covenant that was in Jesus, which was yet to be poured at the Calvary, left Jesus and went into her.
Yes.
And she was healed.
Yes.
Faith will move time for you.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Faith will move time for you.
Yes.
Kuna mtu ameona hapo?
Yes.
Faith will move time for you. It does not matter.
It doesn't.
As long as you have faith,
That's true.
time will cease to exist.
Amen.
That's true.
Time will cease to matter. Because you'll know in your heart of hearts that healing is happening right now. It's just a matter of now that time ceasing to exist. Amen? As I finish, I think it's time that as Christians, we look for that healing that comes by faith. Faith that will be able to push time away from us. That time will not matter. That someone will not say that if you don't have this by this time, then you are not deserving. That if you don't have this under these circumstances, you are not deserving. Because it will not matter. Because our focus will be on Jesus' healing that comes by faith. And at times we get it wrong. At times we get it wrong. At times we call upon Jesus, we call upon God to get us out of situations. When at times what really needs to happen is Jesus to come into that situation. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were to be thrown in the fire, they said, we are not going to worship your God. And even if God does not save us, we will still not bow down to your God. And when they were thrown in the fire, Jesus did not get them out of the fire. He got into the fire with them and told them and walked with them in that fire and came out with them. That is what our faith should be all about. That there are circumstances that Jesus will take us out of. And there are those circumstances that Jesus will come into and walk out with us. And those are some of the circumstances that to us might seem to be taking time. But it's just a matter of time before we are out of those circumstances. So, this is my message for you today. Let us maintain our faith. Let us keep our hope beyond despair. Even when there's nothing to look forward to. Let that faith that we have in Jesus Christ give us reason to hope. And the Bible says, as I close, for them that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. And they shall walk and not faint. For that is the promise that God revealed to Isaiah. Let's stand in that promise. Let's stand in that promise. It does not matter how long it will take. But let us know that our strength will be renewed. We'll soar like eagles. We'll run and will not faint. The Bible does not say we'll not run. We'll run. There will be trials. We'll run, but we'll not tire. We'll soar, but we'll soar like the eagles. The woman with the issue of blood, to me, is the greatest miracle I can ever imagine. It's the greatest miracle I can ever imagine. And whenever you're discouraged, and you feel unworthy, just think about the faith, the hope that this woman with the issue of blood had. She stood in the promise, and she was healed. God bless you.